Chapter 186, 500-year-old Florida couples surprised local by holding flash wedding. Bed. Sex. Now, said Grandma to Grandpa during the ceremony. A minute earlier, after ordering her men to detour around the Mystic Realm platform, Chong followed her troops as a rearguard. While retreating, she stared at the floating island without blinking, making sure nothing escaped her sight. Suddenly, a strong wind blew, and a speck of dust entered her eyes. She blinked once. Whoosh! Something vanished from her vision. She frowned and rechecked the platform. No one is there. Just statues. As the floating island was far away, she couldn't remember everything she had seen earlier. She didn't notice that there were 3 statues instead of 2. Unable to detect the anomaly, Chong flew backward, following after her companions. As her back faced her subordinates, she didn't notice that an extra person was behind her. After flying further away from the island, Chong turned around. Whoosh! Again, the mysterious person vanished before she could even detect him. Wing blew against her face again. Chong disregarded it as natural wind as she was above the clouds, and she didn't notice a lurking shadowy figure behind her. Wiggle! The shadow stalked closer to Chong every second. "We're here, Lady Chong." One of the troops turned around and reported their arrival. Then, he noticed the shadow figure behind Chong. His eyes met with the shadow's eyes. The corners of the shadow's mouth curved up into a crescent moon as he struck the target. He extended his hands and groped Chong from behind. Chong widened her eyes. She opened her mouth and was about to scream. That was when the shadow's left hand covered her mouth. "We're under attack," the underling of Chong shouted while he rushed to save his leader. The shadow's expression turned solemn. His entire body transformed into a liquid and swallowed Chong. When the woman was covered in black fluid, the shadow vanished into the clouds. "Chase!" The men followed after the shadow into the clouds. All troops roared and summoned their Tao avatars. 1,500 spirits manifested and transformed a 1,500-man unit into a 3,000-man unit. But as soon as they entered the white clouds, they lost sight of the shadow. They accidentally descended lower the clouds and found no one. None of them noticed the wiggling movements on the ground. Below the mutants was the Magpie City. Hiding in the shade of the city wall was the mass of black liquid. Strange fluid entered Chong's orifices and melted her clothes. It only took seconds before the cancerous cells of the shadow took over her entire body. However, a quasi-immortal couldn't be killed that easily. After losing her body, Chong's soul attempted to break free from the vessel. Her spirit ejected from her fleshly body. She managed to get her head out of the black mass. But as soon as she came out, a rainbow humanoid spirit also emerged from the black liquid slime and hugged her from behind. Chong looked back and found the assailant's face. He was a handsome Caucasian man with a refined jawline and toned muscles. Like her, he was in his spiritual form and they were both naked. The unknown man grabbed her head and her shoulder. Without saying anything, he put her inside his spiritual physique. Chong extended her spiritual arm to escape from the mysterious rainbow guy. However, the sensation of tranquility, quietness, and numbness overwhelmed her. For an unknown reason, she felt at peace. Her consciousness shut down. She fell asleep while her soul got stuck inside the unknown spirit's physique. Her age rapidly regressed until she was reduced to an embryo. The rainbow man smiled and returned to the black liquid mass. When the Caucasian man's spirit disappeared, the water slime vanished. The next moment, it reappeared on the Mystic Realm platform as the black-winged angel and the new woman statue. The rest was history. Leading the unit in Chong's stead was her fiancé, Du Guing. Du Guing was a mutant like Chong Baidu and Chong, except he had a wide mouth full of fangs without lips. If he shaved his hair, he would look like Baraka from Mortal Kombat series. Fortunately, he wore a ninja-like helmet and a face mask, covering his heinous face. He was only a soul transformation mutant, but he killed many 8th-stage monsters and a 9th-stage monster before. In terms of strength, experience, and foundation, he was as strong as 10 quasi-immortals. The sudden ambush angered Du Guing. He bellowed and gave his troops a new order. "Search for that bastard. Kill everybody in the city and flush him out." The men shouted and charged toward the city below. Magpie City was once the territory of Hua Jiashan and his Life Sword sect. Although the sect merged with Liu's domain, cultivators and commoners still lived there as if the sect still existed. This day was Hua Jiashan and Dongfang Mei's day off. They visited the sect to reminisce on old memories and cleaned the buildings. The two elders laughed as they chatted about the naughty deeds they had done when they studied under Tang Tian and Tang Xian. For hours, they never stopped talking until they arrived at a lone plum blossom tree in an elder's courtyard. This place was where Hua Jiashan met Dongfang Mei for the first time. Looking at the pink tree, Hua Jiashan bitterly smiled. He confessed, "You know, Mei, yeah, I always had a crush on you when I was young. I still do, actually." "Oh my," Dongfang Mei giggled. "Have you finally mustered your courage after all these years?" Her reaction wasn't within Hua Jiashan's expectations. His face reddened. "Ahem, what do you mean by all these years?" "Stupid old man, your face and eyes gave it away. I always knew you had a feeling for me." Dongfang Mei cheerfully laughed. "Why do you think I always rejected suitors? Dense fool. I was waiting for you, but you never opened up for me." Wait, what?" Hua Jiashan was so shocked that he knelt in front of Dongfang Mei's wheelchair. Really? All this time, you were waiting for me?" Think of my status. I had to break ties with my parents so that I could be with you. But you silly idiot suddenly went missing after the sweet dream mushroom incident. I thought you died, and I even mourned for you." Dongfang Mei smacked Hua Jiashan's head with her fist. The latter yelped and shed a tear of regret and joy. The old woman's eyes were also moist. She leaned closer to Hua Jiashan and touched his cheeks. "Old fool, when I heard that you were alive and succeeded the Sword Saint, I rushed here to see you. At the Ascension ceremony when you succeeded the Sect Master title, I tried to talk to you, but you kept pushing me away. Do you know that I cried for days because I thought you had a new Dao companion? I never marry though." "Exactly. I was stupid too. I thought you married Sword Saint's daughter, so I stopped thinking about you. And now, you confess to me." The elders bitterly smiled and gazed into each other's eyes. Hua Jiashan stood up and embraced Dongfang Mei. "I'm sorry, Mei. I kept you waiting." Marry me, Mei?" A tear dropped from Dongfang Mei's eyes. She admired Hua Jiashan's wrinkled face and stroked his right ear. Then, she slightly nodded. "I want 7 kids." "What the hell?" Hua Jiashan was taken aback. "You sound like women at brothels. 500 years I've been protecting my virginity for you. I dream of bearing your children and having a family with you. I want your seed, bed, sex now." Dongfang Mei suddenly summoned her Dao avatar. A giant spirit of a graceful woman emerged and dragged Hua Jiashan into a building. After throwing the old man into an empty room, the avatar merged with Dongfang Mei. The old lady reverted into a charming young lady in her 20s. She strode while she moved her hips, seducing the old swordsman. Hua Jiashan remembered Dongfang Mei in her prime. He dropped his jaw as his youthful instinct was resurrected. "You're as beautiful as ever. Shut it. Off with your pants. We are wedding. Right now." Although Hua Jiashan moaned, he didn't resist Dongfang Mei's approach. Instead, he smiled as he loved this sexually aggressive childhood friend with all his heart. Boom. Unfortunately, before they could seal the deal, an explosion erupted nearby. Hua Jiashan and Dongfang Mei's faces turned dark. They frowned for a moment and looked at each other. "Continue or go out?" asked Hua Jiashan. "TSK, it's close. Let's go check it out." "All right. But remember, 7 kids." Both elders put back their clothes and rushed outside to see the commotion. As soon as they came out, they found the army of invaders. As the invaders emitted killing intent and chi, Hua Jiashan and Dongfang Mei discovered their cultivation base. "Soul transformation and soul formation cultivators?" Dongfang Mei gasped. "Those are not ordinary cultivators. They're demonic cultivators." Hua Jiashan pointed out the 4 arms that they had. Hua Jiashan summoned his Dao avatar and merged with it. His age instantly regressed, and his appearance reverted to a long-haired handsome youth. His white robes and long sword glittered, emitting the white aura of a Sword Saint's disciple. As for Dongfang Mei, she already transformed. Although both elders were cultivators who trained in a different martial art style, they pulled out rifles and sacred wood bullets from their spatial rings. Their nimble hands loaded a bullet into the rifle's chamber and closed the breech. They took aim in unison. Their targets were 2 soul transformation cultivators. Their fingers injected chi into the shell and pulled the trigger. Bang, bang. A loud gunshot mixed with the sound of an explosion nearby. Two flashing yellow needles shuttled through the sky and pierced the two soul transformation mutants from below. One bullet blasted out the innards of a mutant while the other entered through another mutant's crotch and exited through his head. The couple elders didn't bother admiring the result. They reloaded another ammo and aimed at other mutants. Bang, bang. One shot, one down. Two shots claimed 2 additional lives. Dugu-ing swept his eyes across the Magpie City. He ordered his men to bombard it to the ground. Mutants unleashed their skills. Fireballs appeared in the sky and descended upon the town. The first target was the structures of the Life Sword sect, where Dugu-ing suspected that the assailant might be in hiding. Boom! A disciple dorm exploded. However, nobody reacted. Dugu-ing narrowed his eyes. He made a new order. I want 10 platoons to attack the sect. As for the rest, kill every commoner and townsman. 1,000 men rushed toward the Life Sword sect while the other 500 flew toward the city, where the commoner lived. But as soon as Dugu-ing commanded his men, changes occurred in the city. 2 cultivators flew out and carried their trademark weapons. Tang Xian and Tang Tian appeared. Below them, the people of Tang Clan erected a dome shield to protect the townsmen. Tang Xian, as a quasi-immortal, was never afraid of soul transformation mutants. He shouted while he summoned his Dao avatar. Purple fog emerged, enveloping the entire Magpie City. Some of it also transformed into a purple mist dragon, bearing fangs at the intruders. Tang Tian brandished 2 of his purple swords. Behind him, 500 clones of himself manifested from the purple fog that his father created, holding similar weapons. The 2 Tangs glared at the intruders and shouted at them. Who dares harm the commoner of Magpie City? Dugu-ing flinched as he noticed the aura of Tang Xian. But as he realized that Tang Xian was the only quasi-immortal there, he believed he still had a chance to kill him. The mutant bellowed back. Bootlickers of Yen Empire, return my wife or die here. Impudence! Tang Xian snorted and charged toward Dugu-ing. Dugu-ing sneered. He flew backward and pushed his forearms forward. Bang, bang. Suddenly, 2 gunshots echoed, followed by 2 yellowish flashes of something small shuttling through the sky. Then 2 of Dugu-ing fell. What? Because of the distraction, Dugu-ing looked away from Tang Xian. Tang Xian smirked. Pay attention, brat. Boom. Tang Xian instantly teleported and appeared behind Dugu-ing. A purple fist found the latter's spine. Crack. Visit and read more novel to help us update chapter quickly. Thank you so much. Chapter 187. Florida elder gunned down flash mob looters attempting to ransack his store. Welcome to Florida, suckers, said Elder during the interview. Bang, bang. Hua Jiashan and Dongfang Mei kept shooting the mutants in the sky. Unfortunately, they only had 2 guns. After firing the 3rd shot, the mutants found them. Over there. One of the 4-armed tribesmen pointed at the couple. Hua Jiashan and Dongfang Mei kicked the ground in unison. As their cultivation base was weaker than their foes, they chose to rely on the godly weapons of Leo and kept their distance. The elders flew backward, kiting the pursuers. While flying, they aimed and pulled the trigger. Every bullet coming out of the muzzles claimed at least 1 life. The 4th shot of Dongfang Mei penetrated through the vanguard mutant and accidentally blasted another mutant's head. Only then does the bullet lose its momentum. Although the firepower was amazing, the couple had no time to admire their artifact. They allocated 90% of their chi to accelerate their flight speed. The pursuers knew they were stronger than the duo. They also accelerated to get into their attack range. Little by little, they got closer to Hua Jiashan and Dongfang Mei. Jiashan, to the domain. We can ask for the Guardian's help, suggested Dongfang Mei. Hua Jiashan nodded without looking at her. The couple changed their flight course, heading east. You're not getting away. One of the mutants reacted to their movements. Although he hadn't caught up with the duo yet, he threw his axe to intercept their flight course. The axe then transformed into a burning flame wheel. Sensing the pending crisis, Hua Jiashan reverted to his roots. While aiming his rifle at the assailant, he ejected a flying sword from his spatial ring along with his sword Dao avatar. The spirit merged with his sword, transforming it into 1 energy blade. It swung at the flame wheel. Upon contact, the wheel and the energy sword exploded. However, the wheel blasted through the sword. The mutant scoffed at the duo. Fool! Do you think weaklings like you can block a strike from a soul transformation cultivator like me? Die! The mutant bellowed and controlled the flame wheel toward Hua Jiashan. Hua Jiashan widened his eyes and raised his arms to block the attack. Boom. It was a direct hit. The wheel continued rotating, slashing Hua Jushan's arms 1,000 times. Jushan! Dongfang Mei rushed in and kicked the wheel away. She then turned to look at her husband-to-be. Ha! Hua Jushan blankly gazed at his arms as not a scratch was left behind on his body. He looked at the black suit that he had been wearing. Black suits, white collar shirts, long pants, leather shoes, and white socks were the new uniform of Liu's domain. The latter forced everybody to get their clothes from the clothing store, and nobody could leave the domain without wearing one. How am I alive? Hua Jushan laughed. Seeing how Hua Jushan survived a soul transformation cultivator's attack unharmed, she gained inspiration. Instead of continuing to run, she reloaded her rifle with Liu's essence stone. Then, she aimed at the axe-wielding mutant. She pulled the trigger, but instead of firing a regular bullet, she unleashed a beam cannon at the crowd of mutants. Boom! A yellow lightning beam devoured 7 mutants in its path, including the axeman earlier, vaporizing them to smoke. What? Hua Jushan surviving the strike already baffled the Gore tribesmen, but the sudden beam attack shocked them. Seeing the result of her weapon, Dongfang Mei advised her darling. Jushan, mix in essence stone bullets with the regular ones. Invest your essence stones and spirit stones. But that's my cultivation resource and money. What's the point of having those after you die? If you can use them to kill soul transformation cultivators, use them. Damn it! Hua Jushan loaded a spirit stone into his rifle. He injected his chi into the chamber and pulled the trigger. Boom! The firepower was 90% weaker than the yellow lightning beam. However, it punctured through a soul transformation mutant, whose body had merged with his Dao avatar. His body and soul perished together. Moreover, Hua Jushan received feedback from the bullet, and he could control it. As he had mastered the art of flying sword, he realized the bullet acted the same way as a flying sword. Testing the water, Hua Jushan waved his finger, like how he controlled his Dao avatar sword. Whoosh! The bullet moved as Hua Jushan wished. Although it was already far away, he could still order it to turn around and fly toward another mutant. Unfortunately, the spirit stone bullet quickly lost its momentum and fell to the ground. The experiment was enough for Hua Jushan to come up with a new technique. He loaded another spirit stone into his rifle chamber and took aim while he flew backward. Whoosh swish. After applying the flying sword technique to the bullet, it became a homing and penetrating round. The bullet head pierced through a mutant's heart. Then it curved into another mutant's head. Once the skull and brain shattered, the bullet pursued the nearest target. Hua Jushan burst into laughter while he loaded another spirit stone. He loved this rifle and his new skill. What the hell is that thing? Scatter! The mutants panicked as none of them could defend or dodge the bullet. By the time the bullet lost its momentum, another flew toward them. Boom! That was not all. Dongfang Mei never stopped unleashing hell upon them. While retreating, she blasted another yellow lightning beam toward the crowd. The former Amazonian sanctuary master was not without skills either. Seeing how Hua Jushan used spirit stones as bullets and applied his technique to them, Dongfang Mei also applied a forbidden technique that she could never use on her tamed beasts and monsters. Instead of shooting a beam, she fired the essence stone round as a regular bullet. However, there was a deadly effect. Detonation! It was a suicide bomb technique. But in this case, Dongfang Mei ordered the essence stone to explode when it reached the crowded area in the sky. A yellowish flash of explosion engulfed 30 soul transformation mutants at once. The radius of the blast covered only 200 meters, but all life form inside instantly turned into stones. The 30 stoned mutants fell to the ground and shattered to pieces upon impact. What are these cultivators? What are those weapons? Witnessing unknown weapons of destruction at work destroyed their willpower. Half of the mutants fled while the others were frozen in fear. As they stopped pursuing Hua Jushan and Dongfang Mei, both elders disengaged and fled to Liu's domain to call for help. While retreating, Hua Jushan mocked the mutants. Welcome to Florida, suckers. Ha 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 ha. Boom, boom. Above Magpie City, Tang Xian leisurely fought the invaders. After destroying Dugu Ying's spinal cord, he threw the guy to Tang Tian. Then, he crushed a purple pill, which summoned a purple mist. Purple Mist Summoning Pill was Tang Xian's signature product as his Dao and combat techniques synergized with the pills. When pills manifested, his Dao avatar merged with the clouds and transformed into 100 humanoid fog spirits. The poisonous clouds rushed toward the invaders. Four-armed mutants flung their weapons and fists against the mists, but they failed to destroy or disperse them. Instead, the mist entered their bodies and corroded them from the inside. One after another, Gore tribesmen's mouths foamed, and their skins turned purple. A few seconds later, their bodies dried up. As the wind blew, their bodies dispersed into purple dust. Unfortunately, this technique couldn't kill their souls. The tribesmen's souls ejected from their bodies and fled back to base. Tang Xian didn't bother pursuing the fleeing souls. He focused on killing active tribesmen before they could harm the innocent civilians in the city. 5 minutes into the chaotic fight, half of Dugu Ying's troops died. The rest realized that they weren't Tang Xian's match, and they promptly retreated. Tang Xian floated alone in the sky above Magpie City. He crossed his arms and snorted. Damn demons. They haven't learned, have they? Tang Xian was relieved that he brought his clan members and his family to Magpie City before the raid. Although it took him a while to convince everybody to join him, he managed to bring them here, hoping to surrender to Leo and establish their new headquarters in his domain. Then, his clansmen ran into the Gore tribesmen by chance and got entangled in this fight. After driving the intruders away, Tang Xian descended and removed the array barrier around the city. He came down and suppressed his aura and chi so that the people wouldn't be too uncomfortable. It's done. Tang Xian relayed news to Tang Tian and the commoners of this city. Hearing the good news, the commoners in the city cheered and celebrated. Many old farmers and children came out from hiding and kowtowed to the Tang clan members. Thank you, immortals. Thank you. We were worried because the Life Sword sect migrated east. Thank you, Lord Immortals. Many clansmen dryly laughed as they didn't contribute anything to the fight. On the other hand, Tang Xian refused to take the credit. It was nothing. As a cultivator, my job is to protect the weak from selfish cultivators like them. The crowd cheered louder as they loved Tang Xian's demeanor and promise. Tang Xian raised his hands and gestured for the crowd to stop getting too excited. The situation is under control. All non-combatants should go home and reunite with their families. We'll mop up the battle and clean the bodies. Again, the commoners never stopped cheering and praising Tang Xian. They pestered the Tang clansmen for hours. Meanwhile, Tang Tian and his men silently dragged the demon cultivator Dugu Ying to their courtyard. They destroyed his meridians and crippled his dantian. Then, the men started interrogating the guy. While Tang Xian worked as the clan spokesman and poster boy, Tang Tian took on a dirty job. He tortured Dugu Ying for an hour and extracted some information from him. After getting enough information, Tang Tian killed Dugu Ying and crushed his soul. At night, Tang Xian, Tang Tian, and their people finished collecting spatial rings and weapons from the dead mutants. They crushed the stone corpses until none of them resembled a human, so that the townsmen wouldn't be frightened by them. In the middle of the city, Tang Xian and Tang Tian gathered inside a courtyard house. They put all spatial rings on the table to filter the loot. Tang Xian didn't say anything. He focused on eliminating the remnant chi of the ring owners, unlocking the rings. He collected useful spirit stones and essence stones in one of his storage rings. As for clothes, weapons, food, pills, and random items, he poured them out so that Tang Tian could sort them. Tang Tian grumbled while he sat on the floor, sorting weapons and pills from the pile of trash. He kept doing it under their room was full of spiritual weapons. Father, what are we going to do with these? It's not like we can use them, right? Tang Xian smirked. Tributes. Tribute. Yes, we're planning to migrate to Florida Man's territory, so we need to prepare the right gifts for him. To be honest with you, I had trouble finding the right tribute for Florida Man. Those people came at a good time. Tang Tian pursed his lips. He thought of the prisoner that they had captured earlier. Say, Father. Yeah. About intel that we got from that prisoner, should we inform Florida Man too? Tang Tian already squeezed information from Dugu Ying and learned about the Gore tribe's objectives. Though they were surprised that their leader was an immortal, and many quasi-immortals were among their ranks. Tang Xian had already heard everything from Tang Tian. He let out a long sigh. This is not a battle that we can fight alone. Although it's disgraceful, we need to rely on him. What if he doesn't want to be involved in this mess? Tang Xian snickered. I doubt he will ignore us and the commoners of the Yen continent. How so? Tang Xian flickered an essence stone toward his son. Florida Man is a businessman. He seeks life force, not material wealth. Life force. Yes, life force. Then why, oh. Tang Xian laughed. He poked Tang Tian's forehead. That's right, stupid Tianer. I met him and I learned enough about his personality. He doesn't senselessly rob people's lifespans unprovoked. He will definitely offer us some of his artifacts in exchange for our life force. He wants customers. Tang Tian was still confused. He tilted his head, wondering how his father was so sure about it. Visit and read more novel to help us update chapter quickly. Thank you so much. Chapter 188, Drunk Florida Man wrestled with stray cat using WWE moves. Discovered cat was actually adult man cosplaying as tiger. Got RKO'd and sent home. Hua Jiashan and Dongfang Mei rushed to the store. As soon as they arrived, they sent mental messages to everybody in the area. We're under attack. Elders, bring your weapons. Disciples, gather and hide in the main building. All workers froze when they heard the unexpected news. Male young disciples left the farms and their vans, sprinting toward the main store building. The girls also relayed the messages to the Thunder Unicorns and Nightmares, telling them about the incoming crisis. Taxi and Ricardo moved. The former gathered 59th stage Thunder Unicorns around the store to protect the youngsters. On the other hand, Ricardo and his Nightmare platoon took flight, floating in midair and getting ready for combat. Dongfang Mei reverted to her usual appearance so that her people could recognize her. As she had left behind her favorite wheelchair at the Life Sword Sex courtyard, Dongfang Mei straightened her back and endured the back pain, flying toward the main store building to meet Sun Wan and others. Hua Jiashan also searched for Wu Bai, Han Hao, Han Meng, and Tiger Swordsman to get them ready. The swordsman trio reacted as Hua Jiashan had expected. They brought their new weapons along and met up with Hua Jiashan in the sky. Sect Master? What happened? Asked Han Hao. Demon cultivators. They attacked Magpie City just now. What? The trio was shocked. Their small city had never been attacked seriously as there was nothing for invaders to gain except their small sect's treasures. Even Death Sword Sect, which always bullied and humiliated them, never really tried to take over the city. Han Hao, Han Meng, and Tiger Swordsman hesitated for a moment. But when they gazed at Hua Jiashan's black suit, they started laughing. What? Why are you laughing? Sect Master, you see. Han Hao smacked the back of Han Meng's head to stop him from laughing. He explained. You forgot that Lord Florida Man's cloth armor can't be destroyed by anybody under the immortal rank, right? Huh. Hua Jiashan frowned. Then, he remembered that he got hit by a flame wheel earlier and he came out unharmed. Han Hao pointed at their clothes, which looked the same as Hua Jiashan's black suit. Then, he pointed at everybody around him. Look, Sect Master. We all are wearing the same uniform, including our disciples. I don't think we are in danger. But what if we get hit in the head? Well, if they're that accurate, we're dead. See? We shouldn't get cocky because we have invincible cloth armor. Although Hua Jiashan's words made sense, Han Hao and others seemed relaxed. They brought out their guns. But we have these, right? Han Meng brightly grinned. We can just keep our distance and shoot them from far away, Sect Master. Tiger Swordsman suggested. Hua Jiashan thought back to his previous fight against the mutants. Then, he realized that he was never in danger. Realizing how panicked he was, Hua Jiashan smacked his forehead. I guess I'm old. Han Hao laughed and patted Hua Jiashan's shoulder. Relax, Sect Master. Have you forgotten how many strong backers Lord Florida has? Look around carefully. We have 59th stage Thunder Unicorns, 59th stage Nightmares, an 8th stage Plant Monster Pet, and 4 immortal friends of Lord Florida Man. This doesn't include the Lord's Stone Guardians on the Flying Island. If push comes to shove, we won't lose. Hua Jiashan closed his mouth and nodded. Nothing sounded more assuring than having good protection gears and weapons. Say, Hua Jiashan counted the heads of his former subordinates. He didn't see Wu Bai around. Where's that greedy alchemist? Han Hao shrugged. In his house looking at Lord Florida's artifact, I think? Everybody gave up on Wu Bai as he changed a lot after getting his hands on a smartphone. Then, Hua Jiashan searched for Izan and her crew. Where's Lady Izan? Han Meng shrugged. He pointed at the white tree. Over there, maybe. They're experimenting with something. All right, I'll go find her. Hua Jiashan ordered the trio to patrol the domain along with the Nightmare platoon. He visited Izan next. White Tree Array. Surrounding the White Tree Array was a group of lava badgers. They were already 4 feet tall and they had evolved one more time. In their mouths, they chewed sweet dream mushrooms that Izan plucked for them. Strangely, They weren't affected by the zombification poisoning. Instead, they grew larger. After eating mushrooms for hours, these tamed pets became fifth-stage monsters. They were already stronger than Han Hao, Han Meng, Tiger Swordsman, and Wu Bai. Sun Wan gazed at the badgers in astonishment. She wondered where these guys came from. On the other hand, Izan shook her head in disappointment. In the end, they avoid the true death mushrooms. The badgers refused to eat true death mushrooms as if they knew what their effects were. They also kept their distance from the white tree when Izan allowed them to go inside the array. The feast time was over. At the moment, these creatures simply ran and played like innocent children. While everybody observed the little monsters, Hua Jushen flew toward Izan. He landed behind her and cupped his fist. Lady Izan, there have been changes at Magpie City. We need your help. Without looking back, Izan snorted. I heard you. That city is being attacked, right? Yes. Could you help us if our domain is under attack next? If that happens, I'll be the first one to lead the troops. If that really happens. Hua Jushin raised his eyebrows. Confused. What do you mean? Izan rolled her eyes. She turned around and stared into his eyes. Look here, Mr. Dense Dumb Dork. When you retreated from that city, is there any pursuer? No. Right? You drove them away, right? Yes. From the very beginning, you have the power to drive away intruders. Are those weapons that you got from Florida Man for show? Oh, of course not. They were very useful. Izan snorted. She turned around and patted the head of the clinging badger. Then she advised him, instead of worrying about this place, you should bring troops to Magpie City to help the commoners. Also, arrange another unit to scout the perimeter around this place. Use those ponies. They have been eating and sleeping all day. Why, you're right. I'll be going. Hua Jushan was ashamed. He was too panicked and he didn't think this through. After bidding farewell, Hua Jushan went to pick up 20 Thunder Unicorns and taxi so that they could visit Magpie City. After Hua Jushan left, Izan glanced at Ivy. It's probably time for us to resurrect our former comrades. That geezers have most of our people's bones, so we can't do anything about them. But we have collected some armor and weapons of the Royal Guards. We should be able to awaken their souls. Ivy bowed without saying anything. She vanished, heading back to the battle bus to pick up the collected bones and artifacts that they had stored inside. Izan turned to Beatrice next. Beatrice, you go back to our former home. There should be immortalium steel remaining inside that cave. Go collect them and bring them over. We can refine them into new weapons for our units. Beatrice quietly bowed. She too vanished, rushing toward the frozen fire city, where the Gore tribe had taken over. Izan turned to Mark next. The Dullahan boy clenched his fists, waiting for an instruction. As for you, Mark, Izan paused and frowned. Why, yes, master? Go fetch me tea of rejuvenation and some golden sand bananas from the granary. I'm hungry. Mark was dejected. He hunched his shoulders while he walked to the local granary to fetch food for her master. After sending Mark off, Izan pursed her lips and deeply sighed. She scanned the domain, searching for Leo's whereabouts. Unfortunately, she couldn't find him anywhere. Where the hell does that geezer go? Morning, Fate Stadium. Leo finished drying his pants and underwear. He put his clothes on and opened the curtains of his room. The scenery was the same. The power was down, and his system's teleportation feature was disabled. None of the street lights was on. Only the artificial light balls, created by the local residents, illuminated the city. Leo grumbled in a bad mood. He was still ashamed that he had wet his pants because of a stupid vivid dream. He exited his hotel room and walked to the stadium to kill time. While walking back to the stadium, he encountered the werewolf group again. As usual, they still gathered in front of their tribe's locker room. Leo sneered at them. Then, he walked away as he had no business with these mutts. After coming back to the stadium, Leo discovered that a match was in progress. Another Fenrir immortal contested against a giant orange cat octopus. It was a match between a Cathalhu and a Fenrir. It was literally a dog versus cat match. Leo frowned as he found this unfair. His match was cancelled, but the stadium allowed them to fight. He stomped toward the nearby staff to complain. Hey, my match was cancelled yesterday, but how come these guys can fight when the power is down? The staff was a furry rabbit woman. She politely bowed to Leo and explained, Our deepest apology, sir. Your match yesterday was a life and death one. so we need all technical teams to monitor and record your match. However, the current match over there is a friendly sparring match between two private parties. Since no technical staff has to work, we allow them to play. Leo was still mad, but he forgave them. He excused himself and observed the match. The fight was weird as the cat Opus toyed with the dog. He slapped, tossed, and threw the werewolf around like a cat playing with an empty bottle cap. The spectators burst into laughter. Most of them cheered for the cat. Leo also smirked as he hated those racist werewolves. Still, he was curious how they managed to initiate the friendly match. Boom! While Leo was in deep thought, the giant cat Opus slapped the dog senselessly. The latter collapsed on the floor and stopped moving. Winner! Nyan Mio! It ended in an anticlimactic fashion. Leo pursed his lips and inspected the cat octopus monster. The winner was from the Cathalhu race as expected. He seemed smaller than Meow Damao and his family when they were inside the VIP box. However, he emitted the aura of an immortal. The Cathalhu, Nyan Mio, bowed to everybody in the arena. When he was about to leave the stage, his eyes met with Leo's. He smiled and pointed one of his tentacles at the latter. You there, Munya? Leo blinked twice. He pointed at himself. Who? Me? Yes, you, Munya. Wanna fight for fun, Munya? Leo shrugged. Sure, but I'm stronger than you, though. It won't be fair. Don't worry, Munya. Even if you're a sage or an entity, your strength is meaningless when you face an elite Cathalhu. Munya. Leo wanted to laugh, but he couldn't. The guy's tone seemed disrespectful, but he reminded him of the Cathalhu's overall strength and potential. After all, from the rumors, they seemed to be the only ones who could proactively provoke Overlord Lucky and his minions. Alright, stupid cat. Friendly match, right? Nobody can die, am I right? Yes, Munya. Come here. Let's go, Munya. Let me humble you. You cocky cat. You asked for it. Leo leaped from the spectator stand to the arena stage. As for the cat, he remained in his place, taunting Leo by wiggling his tentacles around. The staff on the stage improvised on the spot. He used his voice amplification technique instead of microphones, announcing the next friendly spar match. Next, we have the rising star player Florida Man versus the veteran of the Doge Cat War, the war god himself, Nyanmeo. Ha! Leo raised his eyebrows as he doubted his ears. He looked at the Cathalhu and asked the guy, You? A war god? Surprise, mother dogger, Munya. Do you think I'm a weak immortal? You've been tricked, Munya. Nyanmeo's grin widened. He released his rainbow aura, which was similar to Leo's. Also, black sparks came out from his orifices. Those were black tribulation thunderbolts that Leo also had. Ready your butt cheeks, Munya. I'm gonna clap you so hard that you will moan from pleasure, Munya. The Cathalhu didn't wait for the match signal. As the stadium had no power to restrain them, he made the first move. A 50-meter long and 5-meter thick tentacle came from above, attempting to squash Leo to meat paste. Boom! The Cathalhu hit the stadium floor, but he didn't sense the feedback of squishing Leo to death. Boom! A sharp and painful impact hit Nyanmeo's round face. Leo's leather shoe found its way to the Cathalhu's head and sent it to the other end of the stadium. Then he stopped moving. Ha! Leo frowned as he found the match disappointing. He thought that the Cathalhu was a lot stronger than that. Match over. Winner, Florida Man. Leo scratched his head in confusion. He opened his palms and protested the referee. Is that it? The referee waved his hand, gesturing for Leo to leave. Hurry and go before that cat wakes up. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble. How? Leo still couldn't understand why the referee warned him that way. He didn't need to think long. Nyanmeo slowly rose back to his feet. He stood up with his tentacles and patted his face. That hurts, Munya. I thought I was sturdy, but your kick was even harder than Overlord Shuri's slap. Munya. Ha! Time for round 2, Munya. Let's get at it again, Munya. The Cathalhu charged at Leo. Before the latter could react, the Cathalhu grabbed him with his tentacle and pressed him against the ground outside the stage arena. The referee shrugged. I've tried to warn you. In a friendly sparring match, nobody can die. Even if the system is down, none of you can be killed. Therefore, both parties can keep fighting until one of you is exhausted mentally and physically. Well, I guess it's too late. Good luck, Florida Man. Indeed, the warning came too late. Leo lifted the Cathalhu's tentacle up and yelled at Nyanmeo. Behave, damn cat. Naya ha ha ha, Munya. Leo then swung the cat around while he held the latter's tentacle. He slammed Nyan Mio left and right like a cartoon character. Unfortunately, he couldn't deal any damage to him. The Cathalhu's eyes spun as he was dizzy. But after a few seconds, he regained his senses and attacked Leo with his slaps. Again, Leo counterpunched and kicked the cat, pushing him away. The battle lasted for 6 hours and nobody gave up. In the end, Nyan Mio got exhausted first and stopped fighting. Blink, blink. By the time Leo and Nyan Mio ended their match, the light returned to the arena. Then, they heard the long-awaiting announcement from the stadium host. "We are sorry for the inconvenience. We have recovered the power, and the system is back online. We will make sure that nothing similar will happen again." Finally, Leo could return home. Without waiting for Nyan Cat to challenge him again, Leo opened his system menu and pressed the return button. Whoosh! Leo's body vanished from the Fate Stadium arena. Nyan Mio pouted. He grumbled as he hadn't played enough yet. "Lame, Munya. I was having fun, Munya." Leo didn't notice Nyan Mio's ranking in the life and death arena. He was in the top 10, and his stage name wasn't just Nyan Mio. He was called Overlord Nyan Mio. In addition, his real strength didn't belong in the mortal, immortal, or deity realm. Visit and read more novel to help us update chapter quickly. Thank you so much. Chapter 189 Trained Cat. Maimed neighbors when local trainer took her for a walk. All dead bodies found in Florida man's refrigerator marked as cat food. At night, routed troops of Chongchong returned to base. They rushed to Chongbaidu and reported their failure. As only a few hundred men managed to come back alive, it raised a commotion in the camp. Chongbaidu glared at the kneeling men in front of his palace. He walked down the stairs and sat next to one of the captains in a low voice. "What happened there?" "I am so sorry, my lord. Calm down and take a deep breath. I won't punish you. We're family. Okay?" "Why, yes, my lord." The captain narrated what he had seen at Magpie City. He retold the event from when Chongchong got ambushed to the appearance of Tang Xian and 2 strange cultivators with long-ranged weapons. He also reported how Du Guing got captured by a quasi-immortal. "A quasi-immortal?" "Why, yes, my lord." Chong Baidu patted the captain. He kept his promise of not harming his soldiers. But when he turned around, 100 quasi-immortals came out from the palace. They cupped their fists, saluting Chong Baidu. They were the bodyguards that had been accompanying him. Chong Baidu ordered them, "Treat the wounded and let them rest. Then, gather everybody. Finish it before midnight." The quasi-immortals nodded. They rushed to pick up the wounded and the troops. Chong Baidu rubbed his throat and sent his voice transmission to every subordinate. "Assemble troops. Tang Xian and his Tang clan have mobilized his little army to face us. We'll trample them and set an example for those heinous cultivators. Then, we'll use this momentum and probe Florida Man next." At midnight, the 100 quasi-immortal mutants rallied the rest of their troops. They left behind a few people to guard the base, but 8,000 soul transformation mutants and 100 quasi-immortal bodyguards were ready for another big war. Chong Baidu gazed at his tribesmen. He nodded at them. "Let's go. We'll strike them at night and turn Magpie City into a bonfire. We'll roast and eat humans and cultivators like cows and horses. Tonight, we feast on the Tang clan." The 4-armed people raised their arms and roared. None of them rebuked or complained about cannibalism or human flesh, as they no longer considered themselves as one of the local people. They were demons. They had already sold their souls to the demonic realm's ruler, who was also an apostle of Fenrir race's overlord. Chong Baidu took flight. The rest of the troops kicked the ground and flew to the sky, flying north. Canyon River. As Leo hadn't returned home yet, Cat continued to chill in the river as the contaminated water was delicious and fresh. She floated freely on the surface, pretending to be an aquatic plant. Whoosh! A shadow from the north flew over Cat's head. Cat flinched as she failed to follow the shadow's movement. She widened her eyes and was about to chase after the mysterious being. Fortunately, the shadow turned around and flew back. She stopped in front of Cat to show her appearance. The shadow was none other than Ivy. The blindfolded girl in a black hooded robe faced Cat and smiled at her. "Hi, Cat." Cat recognized an ally. She waved her branch to greet her. "Nom nom meow?" "No, I don't have anything to feed you at the moment." "Meow." Cat sulked. She thought that she could get some exotic night snacks. Ivy laughed. "Well, I have a task to do at the south. Will you come with me? Maybe we might catch something you can eat." "Nom nom meow." Cat regained her energy. She repeatedly nodded. All right, come with me. Ivy resumed her task. She flew at a low altitude and lowered her speed. As Ivy matched her speed with Kat's, the latter managed to follow after her. Coincidentally, their flight path collided with Chang Baidu's troops. Chang Baidu and his men had trained in a harsh environment for 500 years. Their constitutions changed and they gained many new abilities. Night sight was one of the necessary skills that everybody was forced to learn. All 8,100 soldiers formed a square formation in the sky, hiding under the shadows of night clouds. Still, they never stopped scanning below for rogue cultivators or enemy units. Everybody stared at the canyon river. Chang Baidu also gazed at the river. He recalled that one of his scout units went somewhere north and never returned. He wondered if they ran into Tangxian or something in the river. Whoosh! While Chang Baidu was in deep thought, two shadows moved along the river, flying at a low altitude. Their destination seemed to be their base. Chang Baidu narrowed his eyes as he inspected their cultivation base. An 8th-stage plant monster and a hidden master? Chang Baidu couldn't see through Ivy's strength as he couldn't detect her chi. However, judging from the movements of the monster, it seemed to follow after the hooded person peacefully. One of Chang Baidu's bodyguards asked him, "Your order, my lord?" Chang Baidu pondered hard as he didn't remember any prominent monster tamer. He vaguely remembered a gorgeous young lady who tagged along with a quasi-immortal of the Dongfang clan. However, according to his memory, the Dongfang clan migrated to the immortal realm before the Sweet Dream Mushroom calamity. Their descendants or disciples shouldn't be in this world anymore. Meh, I'm overthinking things. Send 5 elites and a 100-man unit after them. The rest will continue north. Yes, my lord. The bodyguard's throat vibrated, sending secret messages to 5 colleagues of his. 5 quasi-immortal mutants dove down and 100 soldiers followed them, chasing after Kat and Ivy. Chang Baidu gazed north. He glared at the flying island on the horizon. Looking at the Mystic Realm Island, Chang Baidu narrowed his eyes. He changed his plan. That place seems to be too close to Magpie City. Change of plans, troops. We'll eliminate the variables first. It doesn't matter if Florida Man is an immortal like me. We'll remove them and get rid of Tangxian next. We shouldn't forget that we're here for Yen Xiang's Earth Fate Crystal. Whoosh, whoosh. Ivy and Kat calmly flew along the river as usual. But as they passed under the 8,100-man army above, they glanced up. Sure enough, 100 men above dove down and turned around. They flew after Kat and Ivy. Kat turned around and laughed, preparing to extort some nom-nom tax. However, Ivy pulled Kat and threw her further south. Then, she hovered in front of the plant monster. 5 quasi-immortals are among them. You aren't their opponent, Kat. Nom nom meow? Kat tilted her head and gazed at the 100 soul transformation cultivators behind their leaders. You can take on their minions. I'll take on the big guys. Meow love. Kat nodded. She then dove into the river and vanished from plain sight. Ivy pulled out a wane and a cane from her spatial ring. She rotated them and held the sharp bottom tip upward like daggers. Then, she lowered her stance. One of the quasi-immortal mutants silently merged with his Dao avatar and transformed his arms into wolf heads. The heads extended and lengthened as if they were tentacles, shooting toward Ivy. For silver lines after images flashed. But Ivy's cane and wane didn't look like they moved. However, red bloodstain got on the sharp edges. A second later, 4 wolf heads fell to the river, leaving the assailants 4 amputated arms. The quasi-immortal mutant didn't flinch. His severed arms regenerated, and he continued his pursuit. His 4 colleagues caught up with him and unleashed their abilities. One of them transformed into a 4-armed werewolf. The second quasi-immortal became invisible. The third summoned 109th stage flame wolves while the 4th transformed into a flame spirit. Ivy was unperturbed. She tilted her head to the side, finding them cute. No domain ability? Then, rest in pieces. Ivy ejected a long staff from her spatial ring. Glowing in purple light, the staff generated a small purple dome, covering all 5 quasi-immortal mutants and her inside. Then the dome shrank. Poof! Everybody inside the purple dome vanished. The 100 soul transformation mutants froze as they were taken aback by the abrupt chaos. They could no longer sense Ivy and their leaders. Kat was also confused. However, she never missed an opportunity to strike. While being underwater, she flipped upside down, pointing her roots upward. Then, She created spike bullets with her roots and branches. Green bullets shot out from the river like a machine gun. All sacred wood bullets from her were radioactive, and they carried a weaker version of Leo's cells. The bullets pierced through half of the men's bodies. The wounded mutants screamed in pain and pulled the bullet heads out of their bodies. As they already sold their souls to a demonic Fenrir, their flesh and blood were tainted. Thus, the sacred would burn their flesh and blood the same way they burnt undead creatures. Sensing a threat, the remaining mutants dispersed and dove into the water to chase after Cat. As for the injured, they remained above the river to recuperate and recover. Little did they know that they fell into Cat's trap. Nom nom meow. As if Cat was a marine creature, her roots and branches slithered into the water like eels. They snatched a dozen mutants in the water and pulled them toward her monster mouth. The mutants sneered and summoned their Tao avatars. But as they were about to unleash their chi and essence, contaminated water got into their stomach and mutated them from the inside. The others also felt the changes. Their skins corroded, and their eyes ceased functioning. Everybody in the water became blinded. Even their dantians, meridians, and chi were blocked as their DNA was destroyed and altered. Red rashes rapidly spread, and their muscle bloated and distorted. Let alone fighting, they could no longer swim or maintain their balance underwater. Cat took her time collecting her food. She brought out a storage ring, which she had stolen from Leo's warehouse. She had been getting smarter. She already learned how spatial rings worked. Nom nom meow. Cat gently pulled one of the mutants to her mouth. She bit his head off. Then, she stored the corpse in her storage ring. Clink. As storage rings couldn't be stored inside another spatial ring, a few rings remained in the water. Cat pouted as she found multiple rings annoying. Still, she used one of her small branches to insert the rings. Afterward, she turned her attention to another mutating mutant. The Nom Nom Festival began. The 50 injured mutants still hovered over the river, looking at the blood-tainted water. They tried to communicate with their friends, but no one answered. "What the hell are we fighting?" one of them asked their colleague. "I don't know. Isn't it supposed to be just a plant monster? It's only at the 8th stage. Can an 8th stage plant monster really fight underwater?" "Like I said, I don't know." The troops panicked. They looked at each other, unable to make decisions. The quasi-immortals mysteriously vanished, and half of their unit lost contact with them. They started panicking. One of them turned toward the main army. He fled the scene and shouted to others, "I'm going to call for help. Don't just float there and watch. Keep attacking even if it's random." The men frowned as they didn't have to listen to the guy's order. However, his words made sense. Everybody summoned their Tao avatars. They utilized their unique techniques and threw various projectile skills at the river. A barrage of fireballs, flame hurricanes, earth meteors, and lava beasts fell into the river, causing random explosions. The river boiled. Bubbles burst on the surface while explosions and fountains erupted one after another. Maya! The trick worked. Cat leaped out of the river and fled toward a forest nearby. The mutants sneered. They stopped attacking and pursued after Cat. Whoosh! A purple dome re-emerged behind the group. As if it became a portal, Ivy slipped out of it. Behind her were 5 purple 4-armed men. They lifelessly followed after her as if they were mannequins. "Oh, you're still here." Ivy deeply sighed as she was slightly disappointed in Cat's performance. She thought that Cat could handle all of them on her own. Unfortunately, the creature still lacked experience in combat. The Lich Girl waved her cane, pointing at the injured men. "Go and unalive your former colleagues." The 5 purple 4-armed mutants widened their eyes. Instead of having eyeballs, purple flame lit inside the eye sockets while a part of their skin was reduced to the bone. The quasi-immortal mutants had been converted into undead. The mutants roared and started using their skills at their former friends. The latter screamed in fright before the stampede devoured their lives. A minute after Ivy's return, the remaining mutants were wiped out, except one guy who had fled earlier. When the ordeal was over, Cat ran back to Ivy's side. She moaned and cried as her plant body was burnt and scarred because of the barrage earlier. Even though the wounds slowly healed, she kept yowling. "Meow! Meow!" Ivy shook her head. She sat on top of the monster's body and patted Cat's human head. "It's okay. The fight is over. We're safe." "Meow. Yes, I got rid of them. Nobody can hurt you anymore." Cat stopped crying. Then, she beamed at Ivy with a sly grin. "Nom nom meow?" Ivy's expression changed. She crossed her index finger. No, Cat. My new soldiers are not your food. You can eat what you killed, but you can't take my spoil of war. Cat lowered her head. She then crawled back to the water to fetch the corpses. Ivy bitterly laughed. She wondered what kind of teaching Leo had given to Cat as she was spoiled rotten. Visit and read more novel to help us update chapter quickly. Thank you so much. Chapter 190 Pedophile Tourist Attempting to Sexual Harass Girl During Halloween Event Shot by Florida Man Cosplayed as Pedophile Bear. BZZZ. While monitoring the lava badgers, Eason heard the voice transmission from Ivy. Her voice seemed excited. Master. I spotted an Earth Celestial Immortal, 95 Quasi-Immortals, and a bunch of insects flying your way. Eason raised her eyebrows. She turned around and planned to deliver a telepathic voice to Leo. Unfortunately, he hadn't returned yet. As Leo was not around, Eason had no one to shove the responsibility away. Meh, how troublesome. Oh wait, we can do this. Eason was confident that she could easily crush every Earth Celestial Immortal with ease as long as they fought individually. But suddenly, she remembered that she hadn't tested Leo's new toys yet. She replied to Ivy, proceed as planned. Go pick up our comrades from home. I'll babysit that geezer's pets. Yes, master. Ivy and Cat continued heading south as planned. As for Eason, she stretched and yawned. Then, she informed everybody, including the badgers and tamer girls. Listen up, humans. Some death-seeking crapstuck on there but idiotic immortals will launch a full-scale assault here tonight. Instead of patrolling everywhere, tell everybody to form ranks and gather south. You girls and these critters go hide inside that geezer's pointless store. Tell the adults to get their guns ready. Chong Baidu arrived at Leo's domain border. He ordered his troops to stop marching forward. In front of him, the mystic portal island stood tall, leaking waterfall to the canyon river. Small and big creatures poured out from an erected gate and fell along the natural water slide. Thunder caimans, cockatrices, rare fish, and dead land animals came out once every minute. Below the flying island, a faint layer of fog covered the entire domain. The remnant force of heavenly tribulation clouds lingered in the area, empowering the fog with mild static electricity. However, green, purple, yellow, orange, and even red thunderbolts occasionally flashed inside the clouds underneath the flying island. Hovering fearlessly under the tribulation clouds were the 50 nightmare horses, led by Ricardo. They remained in their beast form, concealing their true abilities. They all gathered at the south of the domain border, facing Chong Baidu's troops. On the ground, 50 unicorns formed ranks, standing together in a square formation. The leader of this unit, Taxi, had already transformed into a human. He stood on the rooftop of Leo's general store. Behind Taxi, Hua Jushan, Han Hao, Han Meng, Sun Wan, Dongfang Mei, Tiger Swordsman, and the lazy dork Wu Bai brought out their new arsenal. Inside the general store hid the young disciples from Life Sword Sect and Amazonian Sanctuary. They peeked outside while standing behind the glass windows. Among them, Yao Chichi and the newly recruited lava badgers hid there, serving as the last line of defense. As for Eason and Mark, the former rested on a beach bed, next to the white tree array while Mark served as a human fan, generating breezy wind toward Eason with his chi while mixing a cocktail drink for his master. He awkwardly blended a golden sand banana, Arctic in tomato, immortal grasses, and in fluid to create a rare chili drink. The duo didn't seem to be disturbed by the invaders. On the guardian statues pretended to be lifeless. However, their eyes curved up, mocking the approaching mutants. Meanwhile, Chong Baidu gave the thunder unicorns and nightmares a meaningful look. All these ninth-stage monsters were a threat to his quasi-immortal unit. Only he could defeat them. However, what concerned Chong Baidu the most was the two youngsters near the South Farmland. They seemed too relaxed, and Chong Baidu couldn't measure their combat strength. Are they immortals? That can't be possible, right? I don't think this mortal plant has enough cultivation resources to nurture an immortal, let alone a quasi-immortal. If they had, Situ Nantian and Yen Xiang would have ascended long ago. Chong Baidu shook off their theory that Eason and Mark were immortals. He believed they had an artifact which concealed their cultivation base. He scanned the domain and found interesting buildings, such as the Crystal Tower, parking lot building, apartments, and the shopping mall. He was interested in the Spirit Stone Heart the most. That Spirit Stone Heart. I see. That should be Immortal Florida Man's work. Does Florida Man here? Probing the domain, Chong Baidu empowered his voice with his chi, roaring. I am Chong Baidu of the Gore tribe. Bring me your leader. His voice vibrated in the air, causing an earthquake. The horses flinched because of the intense voice. As for the weak elders, their ears bled, and everybody on the rooftop of the shopping mall collapsed to the ground. The recycling center's mannequins rushed to work. They fetched new healing pills, the pinnacle-graded hope and dream pills, to feed the injured elders. Everybody took one and fell asleep on the spot. Even Hua Jiashan and Dongfang Mei couldn't withstand Chong Baidu's voice. The mannequins brought them into the shopping mall via the back door and let them rest. Then they visited the gunsmith and fetched finished rifles inside. After arming themselves, they went back to the rooftop, replacing the defensive forces. Not only did the recycling center's mannequins react to the intruders, but the warehouse and granary mannequins reacted as well. However, instead of joining the fighting forces, they served as logistic officers, carrying necessary food and items to the shopping mall. A minute later, no one from Leo's side came out. Only the ponies remained vigilant. Seeing that nobody replied, Chong Baidu believed that Leo might be in hiding or had already run away. Is he not here? Or rather, is Florida Man one of the two? Chong Baidu glared at Mark. He had heard about Leo before, and the intel said he was an elderly man with a long white beard and white hair. However, this boy seemed to be in his teens, which didn't fit the description. Still, anything could happen in this world. Chong Baidu guessed that he might have consumed age reduction medicines from the Tang clan. I need to make sure they aren't immortals. I'll grab them myself. Chong Baidu descended and landed 50 meters away from Izan and Mark. The former stomped toward the duo. Brat, where is Florida Man? Izan, who had changed her clothes to the domain's uniform, casually rose up. She put on a black suit and adjusted her breast pads before she faced Chong Baidu. Who's asking? Asked Izan. Chong Baidu gave Izan a meaningful look. As he managed to see her face under the moonlight, he noticed the otherworldly beautiful face of a high elf. His eyes automatically moved to her chest, which bulged under her shirt and suit. The mutant drooled. He wanted her. Little girl, which sect are you from? Izan rolled her eyes. You didn't answer my question. Ha! I'm Chong Baidu, the chieftain of the Gore tribe. You little girl should surrender to me when you have a chance. I'll even make you one of my concubines and guarantee your status and wealth. Mark's expression turned dark. He almost pulled out his blindfold clothes because of anger. Izan raised her hand and stopped the Dullahan boy from taking action. She continued toying with Chong Baidu. You? Taking me in? You should at least look at yourself in the mirror and clean your eyes with piss water. Do you think an ugly geezer like you deserve me? Chong Baidu liked Izan's tone. He looked forward to breaking Izan's mind on their first wedding night. You might not know, but I'm an immortal. I have transcended this world's limitations and laws. Now you have two choices. Be my concubine willingly, or I'll chop off your 4 limbs and use you as my personal toilet. Izan deeply sighed. She shook her head. Seriously, men are the same everywhere. Well, except that geezer. Thinking of Leo, Izan faintly smiled. She found it comfortable freeloading in his domain. Moreover, he never tried to force himself on her. Izan didn't realize that her happy smile aroused Chong Baidu even more. He laughed and walked closer to her. Shink. Mark suddenly pulled out a giant bastard sword from his storage ring and slammed it on the ground between Izan and Chong Baidu. The blindfolded clothes failed to conceal bright light from Mark's red glowing eyes. Stay away from my master, demon. Mark glared at Chong Baidu. The mutant chieftain found the boy amusing. He laughed at Mark. Are you Florida Man? Mark snorted. Because of various emotions, he yelled, What if I say I am? Good. Boom. A fist found its way to Mark's face. Chong Baidu punched him and knocked his head off his shoulders. Chong Baidu frowned and looked at his fist. The feedback from his punch was weird as he didn't sense any chi or defensive force from Mark. Upon noticing that Mark's head was missing, Chong Baidu laughed. What a show-off. If you're immortal, you should have stayed outside of our business. Well, it's too late for you, though. Chong Baidu turned his attention to Izan next. Your boyfriend is dead, girlie. Come to me obediently. Izan crossed her arms. She snorted. First off, that boy is my servant, not my boyfriend. Secondly, when you fight a Dullahan, you have to destroy his soul first, not attack his head. After all, their heads are replaceable. What? Izan sat back on her beach bed. She took a sip of her cocktail. What I'm trying to say is, you fucked up. Boom. Suddenly, The headless body of Mark picked up the bastard sword and swung it toward Chong Bai-du at lightning speed. The blade directly hit his stomach, but it failed to cut through his skin. Chong Bai-du was sent flying 500 meters into the sky before he regained his balance. But when he looked back at Izan, he could no longer find Mark's headless body. Mark's head reappeared 100 meters away in front of Chong Bai-du. As for his body, it was already above the guy. The blindfold cloth was gone. Chong Bai-du could finally see Mark's face. Mark had no physical eyes. In his eye sockets were two glowing red lightning balls, staring straight at Chong Bai-du's soul. A new physique manifested using Mark's head as its core. A red body made of red electricity gained mass while Mark's physical body emitted black flame. The black aura of Mark's headless body revealed his true strength. Upon sensing his opponent's power, Chong Bai-du was terrified. Red tribulation lightning. You're not immortal, Mark grumbled. His lightning physique teleported and grabbed Chong Bai-du's neck. Duh, obviously. Do you think a mortal can survive after hearing your shout up close? You didn't use your brain a lot, do you? Zayap. Using his pure chi, Mark unleashed a red electric current through Chong Bai-du's body and fried him. At the same time, Mark's headless body swung the bastard sword down, cleaving Chong Bai-du's body from head to groin. The body of the mutant chieftain was cut in half while it was burnt to crisp. Mark released Chong Bai-du's cleaved neck. The body dissipated into black ash. Despite the destruction of Chong Bai-du's body, Mark's eyes moved around, searching for his opponent's soul and new physique. Whoosh! A crimson dome emerged, enveloping Leo's domain and Chong Bai-du's troops. Flame from the dome's ceiling barriers poured down and condensed a new mass. As Mark had expected, Chong Bai-du wasn't dead yet. The flame mass condensed Chong Bai-du's new body. He reappeared in front of his troops with his full clothes intact. His skin was slightly charred, while smoke came out from his body. However, all wounds instantly healed in seconds. Mark clicked his tongue. He had fought immortals before, and killing them wasn't easy. To kill an immortal, he needed to destroy or disable his opponent's domain first. On the ground, Izan had been observing the fight, and she was slightly disappointed in Mark's indecisiveness. She complained, "Don't just use your brute strength against an immortal. Use everything necessary to crack or destroy your opponent's domain. If you can't, you lose." Mark nodded as he remembered the trick. He cursed in his mind. "I'm getting rusty." His red lightning physique and headless body activated their domain abilities in unison. A blood dome and an upside-down island emerged from nothingness. The surface of the upside-down island was a cemetery. Tombs and graves were disorderly arranged while the black soil wailed as if it was haunted. At the center of the cemetery, a statue of a headless horseman was situated there, holding a long scythe and a bundle of heads. The flying island hovered over the troops of Chong Bai-du. It also slowly spread black fog to conceal its existence. At the same time, the blood domain covered it. The blood domain barrier and crimson flame domain overlapped. As both domains collided, their real bodies were affected. Chong Bai-du flinched and looked above him. A scythe symbol hovered over his head as if he had been cursed by Mark's blood domain and the upside-down cemetery island. Vice versa, Mark's headless body was caught in crimson flame. Fortunately, the black flame negated the burning effects, and the red lightning of Mark's soul devoured the weaker flame as fuel. Whenever immortals overlapped their domains, they could tell which side had an advantage. Chong Bai-du's face darkened as he figured out that his opponent was immune to crimson flame. Changing his strategy, Chong Bai-du chose another ability. "It doesn't matter what your cultivation base is. As long as I have a soul domain that can counter your trump cards, I can kill you." Bang! Before Chong Bai-du could finish his sentences, Mark pulled out one of Leo's distributed rifles and shot Chong Bai-du with an enchanted sacred wood bullet. Pierced his throat directly, cutting off his voice. Mark clicked his tongue as his aim was off. He readjusted his aim. Chong Bai-du had enough. He healed his throat and bellowed, "All units, charge. Kill them all. Quasi-immortal. Get rid of those 9th stage monsters. As for the rest of you, destroy everything." The troops stopped observing. As they had witnessed Mark's strength, no one held back their skills. Visit and read more novel to help us update chapter quickly. Thank you so much.